And when it was morning, all the chief priests and the elders of the people took counsel against Jesus to put him to death. And binding him, they led him away and delivered him up to Pontius Pilate, the governor. Then Judas, who betrayed him, seeing that he was condemned, repenting, brought back the 30 pieces of silver to the chief priests and the elders, saying, I have sinned, in that I have betrayed innocent blood. But they said, What is it to us? See thou to it. And casting down the pieces of silver in the temple, he departed, and going away, hanged himself. But the chief priests, taking the pieces of silver, said, It is not lawful to cast them into the treasury, since it is the price of blood. And taking counsel, they bought with them the field of the potter for a sepulchre for sojourners. Wherefore, that field was called the field of blood unto this day. Then was fulfilled what was declared through Jeremiah the prophet, saying, And they took the 30 pieces of silver, the price of him who was honored, whom they of the sons of Israel honored, and gave them for the field of the potter, as the Lord directed me. And Jesus stood before the governor, and the governor asked him, saying, Art thou the king of the Jews? But Jesus said to him, Thou sayest. And when he was accused by the chief priests and elders, he answered nothing. Then Pilate says to him, Hearest thou not how many things they witness against thee? And he did not answer him to one saying, so that the governor marveled greatly. And at the feast, the governor was accustomed to release one prisoner to the crowd whom they desired. And they had then a notable prisoner called Barabbas. When therefore they were gathered, Pilate said to them, Whom do you want me to release to you, Barabbas or Jesus, who is called Christ? For he knew that for envy they had delivered him up. And when he was seated on the tribunal, his wife sent up to him, saying, Have nothing to do with that just one, for I have suffered many things today in a dream because of him. But the chief priests and the elders persuaded the crowds that they should ask for Barabbas, but destroy Jesus. And the governor, answering, said to them, Which of the two do you will that I release to you? And they said, Barabbas. Pilate says to them, What then shall I do to Jesus, who is called Christ? They all say to him, Let him be crucified. And the governor said, Why? What evil has he done? But they cried out exceedingly, saying, Let him be crucified. And when Pilate saw that nothing was gained, but that rather a tumult was made, taking water, he washed his hands before the crowd, saying, I am innocent of the blood of this just one. You shall see. And all the people answering said, His blood be upon us and on our children. Then he released Barabbas to them, but delivered Jesus up, when he had whipped him, to be crucified. Then the soldiers of the governor, taking Jesus into the praetorium, gathered against him the whole band of soldiers, and stripping him, they cast around him a scarlet mantle, and braiding a crown of thorns, they put it on his head, and a reed in his right hand. And bowing the knee before him, they mocked him, saying, Hail, King of the Jews! And spitting on him, they took the reed and smote him on his head. When they had mocked him, they took the robe off him, and put his own garments on him, and led him away to crucify him. And as they came out, they found a man of Cyrene, Simon by name. They compelled this man to take his cross. And when they had come to a place called Golgotha, which is called Place of a Skull, they gave him vinegar to drink, mingled with gall. And when he had tasted, he would not drink. And when they had crucified him, they divided his garments, casting a lot, that it might be fulfilled, which was declared by the prophet, They divided my garments among them, and upon my vesture they cast a lot. It is related in Matthew that after the Lord's passion, the tombs were opened, and many bodies of those who slept, coming out of their tombs, went into the holy city and appeared to many. The tombs being opened and many bodies of those who slept appearing has a similar signification as in Ezekiel. Behold, I will open your sepulchers and will cause you to come up out of your sepulchres, O my people, and will bring you upon the land of Israel, that you may know that I am Yehovah, when I shall have opened your sepulchres and have caused you to come up out of your sepulchres, O my people, and have given my spirit in you that you may live, and have placed you upon your own land. These passages signify the regeneration and resurrection of the faithful to life. Not that the bodies themselves that lay in the tombs rose again, but that there was this appearance in order that the regeneration and resurrection to life from the Lord might be signified. Furthermore, these same words mean those who in the word are said to be bound in the pit, whom the Lord set free when he had finished the whole work of redemption. For many of the faithful could not be saved until the Lord had come into the world and subjugated the hells. Meanwhile, they were detained in places which are called pits until the Lord came, but were set free by the Lord immediately after his coming. These pits were represented also by the tombs that were opened, and those who were in the pits were represented by those who slept, who after the Lord's resurrection, as it is said, appeared to many in the holy city. The holy city was Zion and Jerusalem, but by them heaven is meant, to which they were raised up by the Lord. For both Zion and Jerusalem were profane rather than holy. This makes evident what that miracle and that appearance of the opening of the tombs represented and signified. Amen. Please rise. Our recitation is number 148. It comes from True Christian Religion, number 2. The faith of the new heaven and of the new church in its universal form is the Lord from eternity, who is Jehovah, came into the world to subjugate the hells and to glorify his children. And without this, no mortal could have been saved. And those are saved who believe in him. Please be seated. And sitting down, they observed him there and set over his head his charge written, "This is Jesus, the King of the Jews." Then 2 robbers were crucified with him, one on the right hand and the other on the left. And they who passed by blasphemed him, moving their heads and saying, "Thou who undoest the temple, and in 3 days buildest it, save thyself. If thou be the Son of God, descend from the cross." And likewise also the chief priests, mocking with the scribes and elders, said, "He saved others, himself he cannot save. If he be the King of Israel, let him descend now from the cross, and we will believe him. He trusted in God. Let him deliver him now, if he desires him, for he said, 'I am the Son of God.'" And with the same thing the robbers who were crucified with him also reproached him. And from the 6th hour there was darkness over all the earth until the 9th hour. And about the 9th hour Jesus cried out with a great voice, saying, Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani. That is, my God, why hast thou forsaken me? Some of them who stood there, when they heard it, said, This man is calling Elijah. And straightway one of them running and taking a sponge and filling it with vinegar and putting it on a reed, gave him to drink. But the rest said, Let be, let us see whether Elijah will come to save him. And Jesus, again crying with a great voice, let forth the Spirit. And behold, the veil of the temple was rent in two from the top to the bottom, and the earth was shaken, and the rocks were ripped, and the sepulchers were opened, and many bodies of the holy ones who slept arose, and coming out of the sepulchres after his resurrection, entered into the holy city and appeared to many. And the centurion and they who were with him observing Jesus, when they saw the earthquake and those things that took place, feared greatly, saying, Truly, this was the Son of God. And many women were there, beholding from afar, who followed Jesus from Galilee, ministering to him, among whom was Mary Magdalene, and Mary the mother of James and Joseph, and the mother of the sons of Zebedee. And when it was evening, there came a rich man from Arimathea, whose name was Joseph, who also himself was taught by Jesus. He, coming to Pilate, asked for the body of Jesus, and Pilate ordered the body to be given back. And Joseph, taking the body, wrapped it in a clean linen cloth, and laid it in his new sepulchre, which he had hewn in the rock. And rolling a great stone to the door of the sepulchre, he departed. And Mary Magdalene was there, and the other Mary, sitting opposite the tomb. And on the morrow, which is the day after the preparation, the chief priests and the Pharisees gathered together to Pilate, saying, Sir, we remember that the deceiver said, while he was yet living, After 3 days I will arise. Order therefore that the tomb be made sure until the 3rd day, lest his disciples, coming by night, steal him, and say to the people, He is risen from the dead, and the last error shall be worse than the first. And Pilate said to them, You have a guard. Go, secure it as well as you know how. And they, going away, secured the tomb, sealing the stone with the guard. It shall now be stated what is meant by the justice or righteousness and the merit that belong to the Lord alone. It is believed that the Lord had merit and justice because he fulfilled all things of the law, and because, by the passion of the cross, he saved the human race. Yet these things are not meant in the word by the justice and merit of the Lord. But by his merit and justice is meant that he fought alone with all the hells and subjugated them, and thus reduced into order all things in the hells, and at the same time all things in the heavens. For with every man there are spirits from hell, and also angels from heaven. Without these, man cannot possibly live. And unless the hells had been subjugated by the Lord, and the heavens brought back into order, no man could have been saved. This could not have been accomplished except by means of his human, that is, through combats with the hells from his human. And as the Lord did this from his own power, thus alone, therefore, merit and justice belong to the Lord alone. Hence also, it is he alone who still conquers the hells with man. For he who once conquers them forever. Therefore, absolutely nothing of merit and justice belongs to man, but the merit and justice of the Lord are imputed to him when he acknowledges that nothing is from himself, but everything from the Lord. Hence it is that the Lord alone regenerates man. For to regenerate man is to drive away the hells from him, consequently the evils and falsities which are from the hells, and to implant heaven in their stead, that is, the goods of love and the truths of faith, for these make heaven. Moreover, by continual combats with the hells, the Lord glorified his human, that is, made it divine. For as man is regenerated by means of combats, which are temptations, so the Lord was glorified by means of combats, which were temptations. Consequently, the glorification of the Lord's human by his own power is merit and justice, for through it mankind has been saved, for thereby all the hells are kept in subjection forever by the Lord. From this it can be seen why the good of the Lord's merit is the only good that reigns in the heavens. For the good of merit is even now the continual subjugation of the hells, and thus the protection of the faithful. This good is the good of the Lord's love, for out of divine love he fought and conquered in the world. From the divine power in the human thence acquired, henceforth he alone forever fights and conquers for heaven and the church, and thus for the whole human race, and thereby saves them. This then is the good of merit, which is called justice, because it belongs to justice to restrain the hells, which are endeavoring to destroy the human race, and to protect and save the good and the faithful. Here end our lessons. Blessed are those who hear the word of God and keep it. Amen.
Is the radiance that